what to say in videos. Not much of a talker, but working on the hair work of the tiger again today. And people always want to know how I do the hair work. And put out a few videos. I normally don't talk too much. First, sketch out my design that I want, and then I go through with a dark base coat of approximately the color, whatever it is. Started with black and white dogs, and then slowly learning to mix colors. And then I have my range of tones going up to the lightest highlights. And for this tiger, I wanted more of a burnt orange, but you look in references and every tiger has a different color depending on when the photo was taken, the lighting, and just genetics. And this is my wet palette. I recommend anybody that's going to take the time to mix up the perfect paint, and then it takes days to do hair work. You'll never get the mix right again unless you're a professional. I'm not. So this wet palette keeps my paint wet for days, if not over a week. And it's got this little tray that they use. You're supposed to, it came with little jars that you had special mixes of paint that you could put in, but I didn't need them, so now I use it as my reservoir for my release agent, which is just that binder chemical mixed in with water. So when I thin down my paints, I'm adding binder back into the paint. Because I've been warned, just by adding water to the paint, you thin it down and the molecules of the paint separate so far that it could peel right off your canvas, and that would be heartbreaking for the amount of hours that you spend. So this chemical adds the binding molecules back into the paint. And then, I've done the darker burnt orange back here, and I'm going to start with this mid-tone, lighter like tan orange, and just to lay out the hair work to make it still look 3D, that it's got dimension. And then at the very end I can go back with washes and I can add shadows to darken any spots that I think are too bright, but the hair work will be laid out and I won't have to worry about that. So I mix it like an ink consistency with my small little liner brush. And I try just to pick up the tiniest bit on the tip. Too much and you'll get a fat line, which you can wipe off with your thumb if you're quick enough. And you got like, what, 2-3 seconds before your line dries. So if you're really quick, you can take it out and then just re-dip. And my hair work's already laid out. That's probably my second step after I put on the base coat. I go back through and lay out hair length and direction so that I don't have to keep staring at the reference photo because it's already there on the rock. And then I just start layering in, doing sporadic hair so that it's not really patterned, because hair doesn't grow really in pattern. It's sporadic, just like if you look at deer fur, rabbit fur, there's dark and light mixed in sporadically. And most animals, unless they're jet white or jet black, follow suit with that. And I'll go through and do the mid-tone and fill in until I like it, and then I'll go up to a brighter color. and the final would be the brightest of the colors, if not even white, just to do the fine highlights that you see in photographs, the shine and sheen off of fur. And with these stripes, there's black, but it's not really black. There's grays and white hairs if you look close enough to the photographs. So I'll put those in, and to get a realistic line between the black and the lighter colors, it's kind of a play back and forth. I can come up and start etching into the black to take out my first layout base color. My base color was kind of a hard line, just laying out where all the stripes were, but it wasn't feathered in. So I try feathering in to make it look more realistic, blending into the black. And if I do it too much, or I want to come back, I can mix up the black and the same consistency, turn the rock around, and work backwards into my color with the black to either widen it or to help feather out that hard line. And it's just a play back and forth until I like it. And I'm getting close to finishing them. Compared, oh, it's still, I don't know, it could be up to 10 hours still of hair work until I'm happy with him. But considering that I may be up to 20 hours so far, on the last leg. And as long as there's video running, I can't listen to music. But normally just turn on music and zone out. And depending on the length of hairs, really long hairs, I may only get 1 to 2 swipes per dip, maybe 3. On the short hairs, I counted on the wolf video. I think I must have had just the right consistency of the paint, and it was bright white that helped. And I could get up to 100 little baby short hairs on the muzzle before I had to re-dip. But most of the time, I just get a few hairs per dip. So, and I normally wait till the very end to do the eyes, because then I can do all the hair work around the eyes without worrying about coming in and it takes me 4 hours. Maybe it took like 3-4 hours to do these eyes. So if I'm doing the hair work around the eyes and I accidentally do a swipe, well, then I just ruined a ton of work. So most of the time I just leave it black and do the hair work as fine as I can up around the eyelids and stuff, and then I can come back through with the bright color, do the eye, and then after I like the color of the eye, I seal it with matte sealer. So then when I'm messing around with the reflection on the eye, which is one of the hardest parts for me, if I mess it up, then I can just dampen my rag and just scrub it off, and it won't affect the eye underneath it. And one important thing is, even though acrylic is dry to the touch, doesn't mean that it's bonded. So when you're doing layers with hair, they're so fine that they dry quick and it doesn't really matter. But when you're doing the base coat over the whole thing, or you're doing layers of color in the eye, make sure to wait 15 minutes or so between layers, or else you'll go to put on another layer or another color and it'll just scrub off the paint underneath it, and it's heartbreaking, especially when you're trying to get a nice blend and all of a sudden you have scrubbed off black part. Then you try and paint back over it and it's kind of transparent over the black and a darker color over what didn't get scrubbed off. So you're fighting, trying to get it to look even again and hide the fact that you just scrubbed off the base coat. And what else? I don't know, other than to make it pop and look more 3D, you can come back with a light wash of shadow or highlight. Oh, when it comes to cat fur, my technique, the hairs are really strong, coarse, kind of hard lines, and if I want a softer look, I can come back with a light wash on a bigger pointed brush, and it's mostly water and just a little bit of pigment. Then I can swipe it on my thumb, and if I can see my skin through it, then I can tell that it's transparent, and then I can come back through and feather and go back. I just go over it with the lighter color, still doing the highlights and the shadows. You can use Payne's gray or really soft black for shadows, and I use some of my maybe mid-tone to brightest highlight, but it's so washed out that it just gives a shade and it doesn't make a line, but it also will feather out your hard lines so that they kind of blend better and look more soft and fuzzy. There's other techniques of dry brushing which I haven't gotten down or learned yet, but I do have an artist friend in Norway that can do perfect fluffy fur by doing the dry brush technique and then coming back and doing just a few fine hairs over top of it. And it's just staring at your reference photo, making sure that all the work you're doing, hair work, you could work for hours on hair work and then you look back at your reference photo and find out that you're going in a different angle, different direction. And that's kind of heartbreaking. Most people would never know, but you'll know. And then I normally just paint right back over it with the base coat and try again. Or sometimes I can hide if I've started to go in the wrong direction on a darker shade. I can correct it with some of the top hairs that are brighter. They take your eye away and hide the fact that I was going in the wrong angle. And I don't know what else to say. Can't really explain eyes because I'm still trying to figure them out myself, and every eye I do is different. I just stare at reference photos and try my best to copy them and pick and choose different aspects out of different photos that I like and combine them. I guess one of the great things about being an artist, you can pick and choose things that you want, and that's about it. Just hours of hair work. So if you're dedicated, in the end, after all the frustration, you'll smile because it looks like nothing you can duplicate. I don't know of another way